Barenziah stood in one of the balconies of the palace, staring down into the courtyard where soldiers milled, dazzling in their armour. Presently they formed into ordered ranks and cheered as her parents, the lord and lady, emerged from the palace, clad from head to toe in ebony armour, long purple dyed fur cloaks flowing behind. Splendidly caparisoned, shining black horses were brought for them, and they mounted and rode to the courtyard gates and turned to salute her. "Barenziah," they cried. "Barenziah, our beloved, farewell." The little girl blinked back tears and waved one hand bravely. Her favourite stuffed animal, a grey wolf cub she called Wuffin, clutched to her breast with the other. She had never been parted from her parents before and had no idea what it meant, save that there was war in the west and the name Tiber Septim was on everyone's lips, spoken in hate and dread. "Barenziah," the soldiers cried, lifting their lances and swords and bows. Then her dear parents turned and rode away, knights trailing in their wake, until the courtyard was nearly emptied. Some time after came a day when Barenziah was shaken awake by her nurse, dressed hurriedly, and borne from the palace. All she could remember of that dreadful time was seeing a huge shadow with burning eyes filling the sky. She was passed from hand to hand. Foreign soldiers appeared, disappeared, and sometimes reappeared. Her nurse vanished and was replaced by strangers, some more strange than others. There were days, or it may have been weeks of travel. One morning she awoke to step out the coach into a cold place with a large grey stone castle amid empty, endless grey-green hills, covered patchily with grey-white snow. She clutched Wuffin to her breast in both hands and stood blinking and shivering in the grey dawn, feeling very small and very dark in all this endless space, this endless grey-white space. She and Hannah, a brown-skinned, black-haired maid who had been travelling with her for days, went inside the keep. A large grey-white woman with icy grey golden hair was standing by a hearth in one of the rooms. She stared at Barenziah with dreadful bright blue eyes. "She's very black, isn't she?" the woman remarked to Hannah. "I've never seen a dark elf before." "I don't know much about them myself, milady," Hannah said. "But this one's got red hair and a temper to match, I can tell you that. Take care, she bites, and worse." "I'll soon train her out of that," the other woman sniffed. "And what's that filthy thing she's got? Ugh." The woman snatched Wuffin away and threw him into the blazing hearth. Barenziah shrieked and would have flung herself after him, but she was held back despite her attempts to bite and claw at her captors. Poor Wuffin was reduced to a tiny heap of charred ash. Barenziah grew like a weed transplanted to a Skyrim garden, a ward of Count Sven and his wife Lady Inga. Outwardly, that is, she thrived, but always there was a cold and empty place within. "I've raised her as my own daughter," Lady Inga was wont to sigh as she sat gossiping when neighbouring ladies came to visit. "But she's a dark elf, what can you expect?" Barenziah was not meant to overhear these words. At least she thought she was not. Her hearing was keener than that of her Nordic hosts. Other, less desirable dark elven traits evidently included pilfering, lying, and little misplaced magic. Just a small fire spell here, and a little levitation spell there. And, as she grew older, a keen interest in boys and men, who could provide very pleasant sensations, and to her astonishment, gifts as well. Inga disapproved of this last for reasons incomprehensible to Barenziah, so she was careful to keep it as secret as possible. "She's wonderful with the children," Inga added, referring to her 5 sons, all younger than Barenziah. "I don't think she'd ever let them come to harm." A tutor had been hired when Johnny was 6 and Barenziah 8. They took their lessons together. She would have liked to train in arms as well, but the very idea scandalised Count Sven and Lady Inga. So Barenziah was given a small bow and allowed to play at the target shooting with the boys. She watched them at arms practice when she could, sparred with them when no grown-up folk were about. I knew she was as good or better than they. "She's very proud though, isn't she?" one of the ladies would whisper to Inga, and Barenziah, pretending not to hear, would nod silently in agreement. She could not help but feel superior to the Count and his lady. There was something about them that provoked contempt. Afterward, she came to learn that Sven and Inga were distant cousins of Darkmoor Keep's last titled residents, and she finally understood. They were posers, impostors, not rulers at all. At least, they were not raised to rule. This thought made her strangely furious at them. A good clean hatred, quite detached from resentment. She came to see them as disgusting and repellent insects, who could be despised but never feared. Once a month, a courier came from the Emperor, bringing a small bag of gold for Sven and Inga, and a large bag of dried mushrooms for Morrowind for Barenziah, her favourite treat. On these occasions, she was always made to look presentable, or at least as presentable as a skinny dark elf could be made to look in Inga's eyes before being summoned into the courier's presence for a brief interview. The same courier seldom came twice, but all of them looked her over in much the same way a farmer would look over a hog he is readying for market. In the spring of her 16th year, Barenziah thought the courier looked as if she were at last ready for market. Upon reflection, she decided she did not wish to be marketed. The stable boy, Straw, a big, muscular blonde lad, clumsy, gentle, affectionate and rather simple, had been urging her to run off for some weeks now. Barenziah stole the bag of gold the courier had left, took the mushrooms from the storeroom, disguised herself as a boy in one of Johnny's old tunics and a pair of his cast-off breeches, and on one fine spring night she and Straw took the 2 best horses from the stable and rode hard through the night toward Whiterun, the nearest city of any importance and the place where Straw wanted to be. But Mournhold and Morrowind also lay eastward and drew Barenziah as a lodestone draws iron. In the morning they abandoned the horses at Barenziah's insistence. She knew they would be missed and tracked down, and she hoped to throw off any pursuers. They continued on foot until late afternoon, keeping on side roads, and slept for several hours in an abandoned hut. They went on at dusk and came to Whiterun's city gates just before dawn.